The bass thundered through Afua Mensah's chest like a second heartbeat, but she couldn't hear the music over the roaring panic in her ears. Two men in black suits gripped her arms hard enough to leave bruises, dragging her through the Seoul nightclub's VIP section like she weighed nothing. Around her, university students her age danced and laughed, living the Friday night she'd planned to have before these men appeared at the library. Showed her a photo of her uncle's bloodied face and said only, "Come quietly." She'd come. What choice did a foreign student have when men with dead eyes made demands? "Please," Afua whispered in Twi, her mother tongue, as they hauled her toward a door marked "Private" in Korean and English. One of the men glanced at her, his expression unchanging, and she understood. Her pleas meant nothing here. The door opened. The music died instantly, replaced by a silence so thick it felt solid. The room reeked of expensive cologne, cigar smoke, and something darker. Fear, maybe. Her fear. Her uncle knelt in the centre of the room, hands bound behind his back, his face a mess of purple bruises and dried blood. Kofi's eyes met hers, and the shame in them was worse than the injuries. And sitting across from him, perfectly still in tailored suits that probably cost more than Afua's entire year of tuition, were two of the most beautiful and terrifying men she'd ever seen. Identical twins, sharp jawlines, dark eyes that revealed nothing. One had his legs crossed, posture relaxed like he was attending a business meeting. The other sat forward slightly, elbows on his knees, studying her uncle with the cold focus of a predator. Between them stood an older man, silver-haired, immaculately dressed, radiating the kind of authority that made powerful men bow. He smiled when he saw Afua, and it was the smile of a snake. "Ah," he said in accented English, his voice cultured and calm. "The debt payment arrives." Afua's knees nearly buckled. The men released her arms, but positioned themselves behind her, blocking the exit. The older man gestured to a chair. "Sit, Miss Mensah. We have much to discuss about your uncle's financial obligations." She didn't sit. Couldn't. Her legs had locked. The older man's smile thinned. "I said sit." One of the twins, the one sitting back, spoke in Korean, his voice low. The older man's jaw tightened, but he nodded. The twin switched to English, his accent slight, but his grammar perfect. "She's in shock, Abeoji. Give her a moment." Abeoji, father. These beautiful, terrifying men were this monster's sons. "Uncle Kofi?" Afua's voice cracked. "What's happening?" Her uncle wouldn't meet her eyes. The older man, their father, answered for him. "Your uncle is a gambling addict, Miss Mensah. Over the past 2 years, he's accumulated a debt of 50 million won to my organisation. That's approximately $40,000 or," he smiled again, 4 years of your scholarship, plus what you send home to Ghana each month. Quite a sum for a student, yes?" Afua's stomach dropped. 50 million won. An impossible amount. "We've been very patient," the father continued, circling her slowly. She felt his presence like a predator circling prey. "But patience has limits. Today your uncle came to me with an interesting proposal. Since he cannot repay the money he offered, alternative compensation." The room tilted. "No," Afua whispered. "Your uncle informed me that you are 23, educated, beautiful, and..." His pause was deliberate, cruel. "A virgin, quite rare and valuable these days. He suggested that you could settle his debt by becoming a wife to my sons." The words didn't make sense. Couldn't be real. She looked at her uncle, waiting for him to deny it, to explain this was a misunderstanding, but Kofi just knelt there, shoulders shaking, broken. "You..." Afua's voice rose, Twi and English mixing in her panic. "You sold me! You sold me! I had no choice!" Kofi finally looked up, tears streaming. "They were going to kill me! Your aunt, the children, They threatened everyone. So you gave them me? Afua lunged at him, but the guards caught her. She thrashed in their grip, years of being the good niece, the responsible daughter, the grateful scholarship student, all of it burning away in pure rage. I sent you money. I helped you. I trusted you. Enough! The father's voice cut through her fury. The guards released her, and she stumbled, catching herself against a table. Your uncle's weakness is not our concern. The question now is simple. Do you accept this arrangement, or do we proceed with his execution? The world stopped. Execution? Afua barely recognized her own voice. The father gestured casually. One of the guards pulled out a gun, pressed it to Kofi's temple. Her uncle sobbed. You have 60 seconds to decide, Miss Mensah. Become my son's wife, or watch your uncle die. Then we'll visit your aunt and her children. Debts must be paid one way or another. Afua's mind fractured. This couldn't be happening. She was a social work student. She tutored kids. She went to church. She sent money home. She studied late in the library and dreamed of opening a community centre in Kumasi. And 30 seconds. Her eyes found the twins. The one leaning forward met her gaze directly, his expression unreadable. The other looked away, jaw tight. Please, she whispered, not sure who she was begging. God, her ancestors, these men, anyone. Please don't do this. 15 seconds. The guard clicked the safety off. Kofi whimpered. Stop! The word tore from Afua's throat. Stop! She couldn't say it, couldn't make the words real. You're what? The father leaned close, his breath warm on her face. Afua closed her eyes, saw her grandmother's face, her little sister's smile, her mother's prayers. She thought of every woman in her lineage who'd survived the unsurvivable, who'd endured so their daughters could be free, and she chose survival. I'll do it. The words tasted like ash. I'll marry them. The father smiled, and it was worse than his anger. Excellent! I knew you were a smart girl. He snapped his fingers. The gun lowered. Kofi collapsed, sobbing with relief. Afua felt nothing. Numbness spread from her chest outward, a mercy her body granted when her mind couldn't cope. The father produced a document, already prepared, she realized with horror. He'd known she'd agree. This contract states that you, Afua Mensah, consent to marriage with my sons, Choi Dae-hyun and Choi Min-sok. You will live in their household, present yourself as their wife to our business associates and family, and fulfill all duties expected of a wife in a traditional Korean household. In exchange, your uncle's debt is forgiven and his family's safety is guaranteed. Sign here. He held out a pen. Afua's hand shook so badly she could barely grip it. The contract was in Korean and English. She caught words like obedience and heirs and termination clause, but couldn't focus enough to read properly. I need time to read. You need to sign now. The pen touched paper. Her hand moved. Her name appeared in her own handwriting, and with it, her freedom disappeared. The father took the contract, satisfied. Welcome to the Choi family, Miss Mensah. He turned to his sons. She's yours now. Take her home. Consummate the arrangement tonight. I want no question of validity. Afua's numbness shattered into pure terror. The twin who'd been leaning forward, Dae-hyun, she remembered, stood abruptly. No! The father's head snapped toward him. Excuse me? We'll take her home, Dae-hyun said, his voice carefully controlled. But she's in shock. We won't touch her tonight. I didn't ask. We'll handle this our way. The other twin, Min-sok, stood as well, presenting a united front. The contract is signed, the arrangement is legal, but we're not animals, Abeoji. Give us time. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Father and sons stared at each other, some wordless battle of wills playing out. Finally, the father smiled, thin and displeased. 1 week, he said. Then I expect proof this marriage is real. Am I clear? Crystal, Dae-hyun replied. The father waved dismissively. Get her out of my sight and clean up this mess. He kicked Kofi as he passed. Her uncle grunted but didn't fight back. Afua wanted to scream at him, to spit on him, to demand how he could do this. But when she opened her mouth, nothing came out. The betrayal was too big for words. Min Seok approached her carefully, like she was a spooked animal. We should go, he said gently in English. Can you walk? Could she? Afua wasn't sure. Her body felt disconnected from her mind, like she was watching herself from a distance. When she didn't respond, Min Seok glanced at his brother. Some silent communication passed between them. Then, moving slowly enough that she could pull away if she wanted, Min Seok touched her elbow. Come on, let's get you out of here. His hand was warm, steady, the first gentle thing in this nightmare. Afua let him guide her toward the door, past her sobbing uncle, past the guards, past the father who'd bought her like property. Dae-hyun followed behind, silent and watchful. The nightclub's noise hit her like a wall when they exited the private room. Music, laughter, normal life continuing while hers ended. They led her through the crowd, the twins flanking her like bodyguards, and she realized people were staring. Of course they were. She was a black woman in Seoul, already conspicuous, now being escorted by two identically handsome Korean men in expensive suits. She must look like, what, a prostitute, a conquest, a purchased wife? The thought made bile rise in her throat. Outside, the November air bit through her thin jacket. She'd left her apartment hours ago planning to study, grab dinner, maybe video call her mother. Now she stood on a Seoul street at midnight, married to strangers, her entire future rewritten in ink and coercion. A sleek black car waited at the curb. Of course it did. Everything about this night had been planned, choreographed, inevitable. Min Seok opened the back door. Miss Mensa! She didn't move. If she got in that car, it became real. If she got in that car, she was choosing this. Except she wasn't choosing, was she? She was surviving. There was a difference, wasn't there? I can't, she whispered. You can, Dae-hyun said from behind her, not unkind but firm. You're stronger than you think. You just made an impossible choice to save your uncle's life. Getting in a car is nothing compared to that. I hate him, Afua said, surprised by the venom in her voice. I hate him so much. Good, Dae-hyun replied. Hate is honest. Hate will keep you alive. She turned to look at him. Up close, his face was even more striking. Sharp cheekbones, straight nose, full lips, set in a hard line. His eyes met hers directly, and she saw exhaustion there, pain. This man knew what hate felt like. Will you hurt me? She asked quietly. Something flickered across his expression. Surprise? Grief? Not if we can help it, he said finally. This situation is... We didn't choose this either. You're not the one who was sold. No, he agreed. We're just the ones expected to do the buying. It's different, but we're all trapped in our father's world. It wasn't comfort, but it was honesty. Afua got in the car. Min Seok slid in beside her. Dae-hyun took the front passenger seat. The driver, another guard, another stranger, pulled smoothly into Seoul's late-night traffic. The city blurred past the tinted windows. Hongdae's clubs gave way to quieter streets, then to the kind of neighborhood Afua had only seen in Korean dramas. Tree-lined, elegant, expensive. The car climbed into the hills, and she realized with distant curiosity that she had no idea where they were taking her. She should be terrified. She should be planning escape, but the numbness had returned, wrapping her in cotton wool. Min Seok shifted beside her, and she noticed her seatbelt wasn't fastened. Neither was his. As if reading her mind, he reached over, slowly, carefully, giving her time to pull away, and drew the belt across her body. His fingers brushed her shoulder as he clicked it into place. Sorry, he murmured. Safety first. It was such a mundane gesture in such a surreal moment that Afua almost laughed. Almost. Instead, a sound escaped her throat, not quite a sob, not quite a laugh. A breaking sound. Min Seok's hand hovered near hers, uncertain. Are you? Don't ask if I'm okay, she cut him off, voice sharp. I'm not okay, I'll never be okay again, so just don't. He withdrew his hand. Okay, I won't ask. They drove in silence. Afua counted streetlights because it gave her something to focus on besides the panic building in her chest. 43 lights. Then they turned into a private drive. The building that rose before them wasn't a house, it was a statement. Glass and steel and modern architecture that screamed wealth. The penthouse level glowed with warm light. We don't live with our father, Dae-hyun said. The first words he'd spoken since they got in the car. This is our space. Separate from the family compound. Small mercy. Afua didn't thank him. The underground garage was pristine, filled with expensive cars. The elevator was mirrored, forcing Afua to confront her reflection. Eyes too wide, skin ashen beneath her brown complexion, braids dishevelled from being manhandled. She looked away. The elevator rose smoothly. No one spoke. Afua wondered if this was what it felt like to ride to your own execution, this strange calm, this sense of inevitability. The doors opened onto a private foyer. Dae-hyun punched in a code, and the apartment door swung open. Afua stepped inside and stopped. The space was beautiful. Open floor plan, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline, minimalist furniture in blacks and whites and greys, abstract art on the walls, a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine, everything clean and expensive and utterly impersonal. This way, Min Seok said, leading her down a hallway. He opened a door, flicked on a light. This is your room, not our room, not a shared space. Afua stepped inside. The bedroom was larger than her entire apartment. King bed with white linens. An attached bathroom she could glimpse through an open door, a desk, a closet. Neutral, hotel-like, safe. The door locks, Dae-hyun said from the doorway. From the inside. The code is 0823, August 23rd. Easy to remember. Why was that date easy to remember? Afua didn't ask. Min Seok set a bottle of water on the nightstand. You should drink something. You haven't eaten either. I can bring soup or... I can't eat. The thought of food made her nauseous. Okay, but the water, at least. Moved toward the door where his brother waited. They both looked uncertain, these powerful men who'd just acquired a wife, as if they didn't know what to do with her now that they had her. Afua found her voice. What happens now? The twins exchanged a glance. Dae-hyun spoke. Now, you rest. Tomorrow we'll discuss the arrangement, what our father expects, what we can do to make this bearable. But tonight, you're safe. No one will hurt you. No one will touch you. Your father said, Our father isn't here. Dae-hyun cut her off, an edge to his voice. And what he wants doesn't matter tonight. You need to understand something, Miss Mensah. We didn't choose this. We didn't want a wife forced on us any more than you wanted to be forced. But here we are. We can make this hell, or we can try to make it less than hell. The choice is ours, all of ours. Afua stared at him. You think this is a choice? You think I have any choice? You chose to save your uncle's life, Min Seok said quietly. That was a choice, a terrible one, but yours. And tomorrow, and the day after, you'll keep making choices. Small ones, maybe, but they'll matter. I don't want your philosophy, Afua said bitterly. I want my life back. So do we, Dae-hyun replied. But we don't get what we want. We get what we survive. If you're gripped by Afua's impossible situation and want to see if she finds a way out of this nightmare, or if the Choi twins are truly different from their monster of a father, then subscribe to this channel right now. We're just getting started, and what happens next will test everything Afua thought she knew about survival, love, and freedom. Hit that like button if you're already rooting for her, and drop a comment telling me, would you have signed that contract to save your family? Or would you have chosen differently? Let me know, because Afua's story is about to get a whole lot more complicated. Now, let's see what happens on her first night in the twins' penthouse. Daehyun pulled the door closed as he left. Min-sok lingered a moment longer. "I'm sorry," he said, "for what it's worth. I'm sorry this happened to you." Then he was gone, and Afua was alone. She stood in the center of the beautiful, impersonal room and felt the numbness crack. The sobs came violently, tearing through her chest, and she collapsed onto the pristine white bed, pressing her face into pillows that smelled like expensive detergent and nothing else. She cried for her freedom, for her trust betrayed, for her uncle's weakness and her own powerlessness. She cried until her throat was raw and her eyes were swollen and there was nothing left inside her but exhaustion. Finally, she dragged herself to the bathroom, caught sight of herself in the mirror, mascara streaked, eyes puffy, a bruise forming on her arm where the guards had gripped too hard. She looked destroyed. Good. That's what she was. Afua stripped mechanically, letting her clothes fall where they dropped, stepped into the shower and turned the water scalding hot, trying to burn the last few hours off her skin. It didn't work. Nothing would work. When she emerged, she found pajamas laid out on the bed. Someone had come in while she showered. The violation made her stomach turn, but the clothes were clean and soft, and she was too tired to care. She pulled them on, locked the door with the code Daehyun had given her, 0823, whose birthday, whose anniversary, and crawled under the covers. Her phone was still in her jacket pocket. 17 missed calls from her mother, 12 from her best friend, Amma, texts asking where she was, if she was okay, why she'd missed their Friday study group. Afua typed and deleted 6 different messages before settling on, "Studies are intense, but good. Phone was dead. I'm fine. I love you." She sent it to her mother, knowing it was a lie, knowing it was the first of many lies she'd have to tell to keep her family from the truth. Because what could she say? Uncle Kofi sold me to Korean gangsters, and now I belong to 2 men I've never met? They'd try to save her, get the police involved, and the Choi family would make sure everyone she loved suffered. No, this was her burden now, hers alone. Afua turned off her phone and pulled the covers over her head, blocking out the unfamiliar room, the unfamiliar city, the unfamiliar life that was now hers. Sleep, when it came, was fitful and full of nightmares. She woke to sunlight stabbing through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee. For 3 blissful seconds, Afua didn't remember. Then reality crashed down, and she wanted to crawl back into unconsciousness. Instead, she lay there, staring at the ceiling, cataloguing the soreness in her body, her arm where they'd grabbed her, her throat from crying, her chest from the weight of everything. A soft knock at the door. "Miss Mensah?" Min-sok's voice. "It's 9 a.m. We need to talk, whenever you're ready." Afua said nothing. After a moment, she heard his footsteps retreat. She couldn't hide in this room forever. Eventually, she'd have to face whatever came next. But maybe just a few more minutes. Her stomach growled, betraying her with its mundane needs. When had she last eaten? Yesterday's lunch? The thought of food still made her nauseous, but her body demanded fuel. Afua forced herself to sit up, then stand, found her clothes from last night folded neatly on a chair. Someone had laundered them. The efficiency was unsettling. She dressed quickly, splashed water on her face, avoided her reflection. The hallway was silent. She followed it toward the main living area, where voices drifted, the twins speaking Korean in low tones. They fell silent when she appeared. Both sat at the dining table, dark wood, 6 chairs, set with coffee, juice, and an array of breakfast foods that looked untouched. They stood when they saw her, and the formality of it made something twist in Afua's stomach. "Good morning," Daehyun said. "Did you sleep?" "No." "Why lie?" "There's food," Min-sok gestured. "Coffee, juice. I wasn't sure what you'd like, so I got everything," Afua finished, looking at the spread. Korean dishes she didn't recognize, toast, fruit, yogurt. Enough for 10 people. "I'm not hungry." "You should eat anyway," Daehyun said. "We have a lot to discuss, and you'll need energy." Afua wanted to refuse out of spite, but her body had other ideas. She sat stiffly at the far end of the table, as far from them as possible, and picked at some fruit. The twins sat as well. Min-sok poured her coffee without asking how she took it, black as it turned out. She sipped it, grateful for something familiar in this alien morning. "So," she said finally, tired of the awkward silence, "tell me what happens now. What exactly did I sign my life away for?" Daehyun pulled out a copy of the contract. "This is what our father will enforce. You live here, with us. You attend family functions and business gatherings as our wife, plural possessive in the legal sense, though Korean law technically only recognizes marriage to one of us. I'm listed as the legal husband. Min-seok is complicated." "Complicated," Afua repeated flatly. Min-seok leaned forward. "In our father's world, family structure is flexible when it suits him. You're our wife in his eyes, mine and Daehyun's. But on paper, legally, you're married only to Daehyun. It's a technicality." "A technicality that makes me belong to him." Afua looked at Daehyun. "Do you feel like you own me now?" His jaw tightened. "No." "But your father does. And this contract says I have to obey family hierarchy and fulfill wifely duties. What does that mean exactly?" Silence. "Tell me," Afua insisted, her voice rising. "I signed it without reading the whole thing because a gun was pointed at my uncle's head. Now I want to know what I agreed to." Daehyun's expression was unreadable. "You'll live here. You'll attend gatherings, family dinners, business meetings, social events, and present yourself as a Choi wife. That means learning Korean customs, proper etiquette, how to address family members and associates respectfully, like a trained performer." "Yes," he said bluntly, "that's exactly what it is, a performance." "And the wifely duties?" She forced herself to say it. "Sex. He wants heirs." Min-seok flinched. "Eventually, our father will expect proof that this marriage is real. Children, specifically." The fruit turned to stones in Afua's stomach. "When?" "There's no timeline," Daehyun said, "but he'll pressure us. Soon." "Soon," Afua laughed, and it sounded unhinged even to her. "I'm 23 years old. I'm a virgin. I've never even had a serious boyfriend because I've been too busy studying and working and sending money home. And now I'm supposed to just... what? Sleep with men I don't know? Produce babies for a criminal family? No," Min-sok said firmly. "Not like that." "Then how?" Afua demanded. "Because your father was very clear last night. Consummate the arrangement. Make it valid. I'm property you need to claim." "You're not property," Daehyun said, his voice low and dangerous. "Not to us." "Really? Then I can leave?" Silence answered her. "That's what I thought." Afua pushed away from the table, her appetite gone. "So don't tell me I'm not property when I can't walk out that door. Don't tell me this is a choice when it's compliance or death. And don't tell me you're different from your father when you're benefiting from exactly what he did." "You're right," Min-sok said quietly, "about all of it. This isn't fair, it's not right, and we are complicit, whether we wanted this or not. But we're trying to... Trying to what?" Afua cut him off. Make it easier. Make me grateful. I don't care about your good intentions. I care about reality. And the reality is, I'm trapped here. And eventually, you'll expect me to sleep with you, and I'll have to, because the alternative is people I love dying. So let's not pretend this is anything other than what it is. The words hung in the air, ugly and true. Dae-hyun stood, and Afua tensed, but he just walked to the windows, staring out at Seoul. When he spoke, his voice was tired. You want reality? Fine. Here's reality. In 2 weeks, there's a formal family gathering. All the major criminal families in Seoul will attend. You'll be presented as our wife. You'll need to know how to bow properly, how to serve tea, how to address the elders, how to move and speak and breathe without offending anyone. Because if you fail, if you embarrass our father in front of his associates, he won't just punish you, he'll punish your uncle, your aunt, your cousins. Everyone you care about becomes leverage. Afua's blood ran cold. So we have 2 weeks, Dae-hyun continued, turning to face her. 2 weeks to teach you enough to survive that night. And yes, our father will eventually demand intimacy, demand children. But we can delay that. We can tell him you need time to adjust, that forcing it would be counterproductive. We can buy you months, maybe a year, but only if you work with us. Work with you, Afua repeated. My captors. Your survival partners, Min-sok corrected. We're all trying to survive our father. You're just the newest prisoner. Afua looked between them. These identical faces, these strangers who held her life in their hands. If I refuse, if I don't play along, then people die, Dae-hyun said simply. Your uncle first, then whoever else our father decides would motivate you. He's very good at finding pressure points. The pragmatism of it was worse than threats. This was just fact, math, cause and effect. I need to know something, Afua said, hating how small her voice sounded. Last night, you told your father you wouldn't touch me. Was that real? Or just for show? The twins exchanged a look. It was real, Min-sok said. We won't force you, ever. What our father wants and what we'll actually do are different things. Until they're not, Afua said. Until he pushes hard enough and you give in. Maybe, Dae-hyun acknowledged, but for now, you have our word. We won't touch you without consent. Consent. The word was bitter. How can I consent when I'm trapped? You can't, Dae-hyun said. Not really. That's why we won't touch you. Not unless... He trailed off, unable to finish the thought. Afua closed her eyes. This was her life now. This impossible situation with no good options. Learn to perform, delay the inevitable, hope for what? Rescue? Escape? There was none. Fine, she said finally. I'll learn your customs. I'll play the perfect Korean wife at your gathering, but understand something. I'll never stop hating this. I'll never stop hating what was done to me. And if I ever get the chance to escape, I will. I'll run and never look back. Fair enough, Dae-hyun replied. We'd probably do the same. The honesty of it surprised her. Maybe that was the strangest part of this nightmare. These men seemed to genuinely regret her captivity, even as they enforced it. Min-sok stood, clearing his throat. We should start today. The basics. Korean greetings, bowing etiquette, family titles. It's a lot to learn. I'm a quick study, Afua said coldly. I know. We looked into your background. Full scholarship, top marks, fluent in English and Twi, intermediate Korean from your classes. The invasion of privacy was just another violation in a long list. You investigated me. Our father did, Dae-hyun corrected. We just read the report. He's very thorough when acquiring Assets. Assets. At least they were honest about how she was viewed. Let me make a phone call first, Afua said. My mother will be worried. My friends will be looking for me. What will you tell them? Min-sok asked. That I'm fine, that I'm busy. The same lies I'll be telling from now on. She met his eyes. Unless you plan to stop me. No, but be careful. Our father has ways of monitoring things. If you hint that something's wrong, I know, Afua cut him off. More leverage. More threats. I understand how this works. She walked back to her room, closed the door, and sat on the bed with her phone. 17 more missed calls overnight. Texts from her mother ranging from worried to angry. Her friend Ama threatening to file a police report. Afua typed carefully. I'm so sorry I worried you. Met someone from my program. We stayed up late working on a project. Phone died and I didn't have a charger. Everything is fine. Love you all. She sent variations to her mother, Ama, her study group. Normal, boring, believable lies. Her mother's response came immediately. You nearly gave me a heart attack. Call me when you can. Afua's finger hovered over the call button. If she heard her mother's voice, she'd break. She'd confess everything, and then it would all fall apart. Instead, she typed, Sorry, Mama, in the library now. Have to be quiet. We'll call this weekend. Love you. More lies. She turned her phone to silent and set it aside. Then she allowed herself exactly 5 minutes to cry. For the girl she'd been yesterday, for the life she'd lost, for the family she'd have to keep lying to. When the 5 minutes were up, Afua washed her face, straightened her shoulders, and walked back out to where the Choi twins waited. I'm ready, she said. Teach me how to be your wife. The next 2 weeks were the strangest crash course in cultural performance Afua had ever experienced. Every morning, she woke in her locked room, ate breakfast in strained silence with the twins, and spent hours learning the intricate rules of Korean hierarchical society as filtered through criminal family culture. Min Seok was the gentler teacher. He showed her how to bow, the depth of the bow corresponding to the status of the person being greeted, a casual nod for equals, a 30-degree bow for elders, a full 90-degree bow, with hands clasped for the highest authorities. Like this, he demonstrated, his body folding with practiced ease. When you meet our father or the other family patriarchs, you'll do keunjol, a full prostration bow, kneeling on the ground, forehead to floor. Afua's pride rebelled. I'm not bowing to the ground for anyone. You will if you want to survive, Daehyun said from where he watched, leaning against the wall. In that room, with those men, your dignity is worth less than your compliance. Bow low, speak only when addressed, keep your eyes down, make yourself invisible. Invisible, Afua repeated bitterly. Easy for him to say. Daehyun's expression darkened. You think you're the only one who has to perform. You think I enjoy bowing to that man, calling him Abuji with respect when I... He stopped himself, jaw clenched tight. When he what? Afua wondered. Hated him, feared him, both? Min Seok cut the tension. Let's practice tea service. That's crucial. He taught her the ceremony, the specific way to hold the cup, the order of serving, eldest first, then by rank, the small towel for wiping the rim, the graceful economy of movement. In Korean culture, especially in our father's world, these rituals matter. They show respect, control, cultivation. You master this and you show you're worthy of being a Choi wife. I'm not a Choi wife, Afua said, pouring tea with hands that wanted to shake but didn't. She refused to show weakness. I'm a prisoner wearing a title. Yes, Min Sok agreed quietly. But a prisoner who pours tea well might survive longer than one who doesn't. The pragmatism of survival. Everything in this world came down to that. They drilled her on titles. Abeoji for father, Aomeoni if Daehyun's mother were alive. Sajangnim for the business associates, respectful address for company presidents. Hyungnim for older male associates, Seonsengnim for doctors or teachers. The hierarchy was dizzying, each title carrying weight, each mistake potentially fatal. "What do I call you?" Afua asked during one lesson, in front of others. "Daehyun-si and Min-suk-si," Daehyun said. "Respectful but intimate. It shows you're close but maintain propriety. And when we're alone, whatever you want," Min-sok said with a slight smile. "Your captors, your wardens, we answer to many names." Despite herself, Afua's lips twitched. Was that humour in this nightmare? The Korean language lessons were hardest. Afua had been studying Korean for 2 years, but academic Korean and the formal, hierarchical language of criminal society were different beasts. Min Seok was patient, correcting her pronunciation gently, teaching her the grammar patterns of extreme deference. "Joa song hamnida," he coached. "Not mianhae, the formal apology, always." "Joe song hamnida," Afua repeated, the syllables foreign on her tongue. "Better, now try. Abeonim, jongmal, joe song hamnida." "Father, I am truly sorry." The words felt like gravel, apologizing to the man who'd enslaved her. But she said them, practiced them, made them smooth. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of etiquette drilling, Afua retreated to her room and found herself overwhelmed by homesickness. She pulled up photos on her phone, her grandmother's face, her sister's graduation, the small house in Kumasi where she'd grown up, a world away, a lifetime ago. On impulse, she opened the kitchen app she'd downloaded back when cooking in her tiny apartment was a luxury. Found a recipe for jollof rice. She emerged from her room to find the twins in the living room, Daehyun reading something on a tablet. Min Seok watching a Korean drama with subtitles. They looked up, surprised to see her. "Can I use the kitchen?" Afua asked. "Of course," Min Seok said immediately. "You don't have to ask. This is your home too." It wasn't. It would never be. But she didn't argue. The kitchen was a dream. High-end appliances, every tool imaginable. Afua gathered ingredients, improvising when she couldn't find exact matches. Rice, tomatoes, peppers, onions. No Scotch bonnets, but Korean chili peppers would work. Chicken thighs in the freezer. It wouldn't be perfect, wouldn't taste like home, but it would be close. As she chopped vegetables, the familiar rhythm soothed her. This, at least, was hers. Her grandmother's recipe, passed down, adapted, loved. The smell of sautéing onions and tomatoes filled the apartment, rich and complex. "What is that?" Min Seok appeared in the kitchen doorway, drawn by the aroma. "Jollof rice," Afua said without looking up. "Ghanaian food. It smells incredible." Despite everything, she felt a small spark of pride. "It's comfort food, what you make when you're homesick." Min Seok was quiet for a moment. "Are you very homesick?" "Every second of every day." "I'm sorry." Afua glanced at him. He looked like he meant it. Sad eyes, genuine regret. It would be easier if he were cruel, if they both were, but they weren't, and that complicated everything. "You can stay," she heard herself say. "If you want, watch me cook." Min Seok pulled up a stool at the kitchen island. "I'd like that. If you tell me what you're making, the process." So she did. Explained how the tomatoes had to cook down until the oil separated, how the rice would absorb the flavours, how her grandmother used to add smoked fish and her mother preferred chicken and Afua herself liked it with both, but would settle for just chicken tonight. "In Ghana," she said, stirring the pot, "people argue about jollof rice, Ghanaian jollof versus Nigerian jollof. It's a whole thing. Wars have been fought." She smiled despite herself. "Well, not real wars, but passionate disagreements. What's the difference?" Nigerians use more tomatoes, different spices. Ghanaians have a smokier flavor. Both are delicious. Both claim superiority. Which is actually better? Afua gave him a look. Ghanaian, obviously. I'm biased, but I'm also correct. Minsok laughed, a real laugh, warm and surprised. The sound filled the kitchen, and for a moment, the nightmare receded. Just two people talking about food. Daehyun appeared, drawn by the laughter. He stopped in the doorway, assessing the scene. What's funny? Jollof rice politics, Min Sok explained. Apparently, it's serious business. Everything about food is serious business, Daehyun said. He approached the stove, looking into the pot. May I? Afua nodded. He breathed in the aroma deeply, and something in his expression softened. My mother used to cook when we were young, before our father. He stopped himself. She made Korean food, but with her own touches. Things she created. Father hated that she experimented, said it was disrespectful to tradition. What happened to her? Afua asked, then immediately regretted the question. Sorry. You don't have to. She died, Daehyun said simply. 10 years ago. Car accident. Except it wasn't an accident. Rival family. Retaliation. She was too gentle for this world. The pain in his voice was raw, unguarded. Afua recognized it. The grief of losing someone who made the world bearable. I'm sorry, she said softly. I lost my father when I was 14. Work accident. It's not the same as murder, but I understand some of what you feel. Daehyun met her eyes, and for the first time she saw him as something other than her captor, just a man who'd lost his mother, who missed her, who maybe cooked with her once, like Afua had cooked with her grandmother. The rice is ready, Afua said, breaking the moment. She served 3 plates, garnished with fried plantains she'd made on the side, Kelliwell, spicy and sweet. They ate at the kitchen island rather than the formal dining table. The jollof was good, not perfect, not quite like home, but close enough to make her chest ache. The twins ate with genuine appreciation, trying to use chopsticks before Afua told them it was finger food in Ghana, eaten with a spoon or hands. This is better than any Korean rice dish, Min Seok declared. Daehyun gave him a look. That's sacrilegious. But true. Try the plantains. They bickered lightly, and Afua watched, fascinated despite herself. They were brothers, clearly. The ease between them spoke of a lifetime together. Identical twins, but different somehow. Min Sok warmer, quicker to smile. Daehyun more reserved, controlled. Thank you, Daehyun said to her after they'd finished, for sharing this. It's just food. No, he said. It's not. It's a piece of home. You didn't have to share it with us. He was right. She hadn't had to, but something about cooking, about feeding people, felt like reclaiming a tiny piece of power. This she could control. This she could give or withhold. You're welcome, she said. That night, lying in her locked room, Afua realized she'd laughed today. Just for a moment, over jollof rice politics. But still, she'd laughed in this prison. She wasn't sure if that meant she was adapting or breaking, maybe both. The formal gathering loomed like an execution date. 3 days before, Afua's anxiety peaked. I can't do this, she told the twins during another etiquette practice session. There are too many rules, too many people to remember. I'm going to fail. You won't, Min Sok said, with more confidence than she felt. We've drilled this 100 times. You know the protocols. Knowing and performing under pressure are different. Then we practice under pressure. Daehyun pulled out his phone. I'm calling Yu Hana. She's the wife of one of our allied family's sons. She can help. Another prisoner? Afua asked. Another performer, he corrected. Yu Hana arrived an hour later, a petite Korean woman in an elegant dress, her smile practiced and perfect. She bowed to the twins with precise depth, then turned to Afua. So you're the new Choi bride, she said in English. I heard rumors. A beautiful African woman. The criminal families are very interested. Interested, Afua repeated flatly. Hana's smile gained an edge. Judgmental is more accurate. You'll face racism, microaggressions, outright hostility, but you'll smile through it, bow deeply, and let them think you're compliant, because that's how you survive. Speaking from experience? 5 years of it. Hana sat gracefully. I was recruited. She caught herself. Excuse me, purchased. Let's be honest. My father's business was failing. The Yu family offered to absorb his debts in exchange for a bride for their youngest son. I said yes to save my family. Sound familiar? Afua's throat tightened. Yes. Then listen carefully, because I'm going to tell you what I wish someone had told me. Hana's eyes were kind but hard. At the gathering, the men will mostly ignore you. The women will scrutinize everything, your clothes, your hair, your posture, your Korean. They'll whisper in Korean, assuming you don't understand. Sometimes they'll want you to, over here, it's a power play. What do I do? Nothing. Smile blandly, bow when appropriate, serve tea perfectly, show no reaction. If you understand their insults and respond, they'll escalate. If you show ignorance, they'll get bored. Even if they're being racist, Hana's expression hardened. Especially then. I know it's not fair. I know it's degrading, but you're not there to win hearts and minds. You're there to survive and protect your family. Pride is a luxury you can't afford yet. The truth of it was crushing. They spent the next hours practicing. Hana played the role of judgmental criminal wife today, making cutting remarks in Korean, while Afua served tea with perfect form. Your skin is so dark. Do you bleach it? Hana said in Korean, then smiled sweetly. Afua's hands shook with rage, but she kept her expression neutral, continued serving. Better, Hana said in English, but your micro-expressions are showing. You need to master your face completely. Try again. They drilled until Afua could maintain serenity through any insult. When Hana finally left, she pulled Afua aside. One more thing, she said quietly. After the gathering, if you need anything, advice, a safe person to talk to, here's my number. We prisoners should stick together. Afua took the number, surprised by the solidarity. Thank you. Thank me by surviving, Hana said. Then she bowed perfectly to the twins and left. She's good people, Min Sok said after the door closed. She's trapped like me, Afua replied. Yes, but she's also made the best of it. Found ways to resist quietly. You could learn from her. Afua didn't respond. She wasn't interested in making the best of her cage. The night of the gathering, Afua stood in front of her mirror, barely recognizing herself. The twins had provided a hanbok, traditional Korean dress in deep burgundy silk with gold embroidery. It was beautiful and suffocating. Her braids had been styled into an elegant updo, makeup professionally applied to make her features softer, more demure. You look perfect, Min Sok said from her doorway. I look like a doll, Afua replied. Wind me up and watch me perform. You look strong, Daehan corrected, appearing behind his brother. Like someone who can survive anything. Their suits were impeccable, black and perfectly tailored, making them look like the dangerous men they were. Afua studied their reflections in the mirror. These strangers she'd lived with for 2 weeks. She still barely knew them, still resented them. But in the quiet moments, cooking, learning, laughing despite herself, something had shifted. They weren't friends. Weren't even allies exactly, but they weren't pure enemies either. Are you ready? Daehyun asked. No, she'd never be ready for this. But she nodded anyway. The drive to the Choi family compound felt like riding to her own funeral. The building rose from landscaped grounds, traditional Korean architecture mixed with modern security. Guards everywhere. Expensive cars filling the circular drive. Remember, Min Seok said as they parked, stay close to us. Speak only when directly addressed. Let us handle any confrontations. I'm not a child, Afua said. No, but you're our wife, and in this world, that means you're under our protection. Let us protect you. They entered through massive doors into a world of wealth and power and barely concealed violence. The main hall was decorated with traditional Korean artwork, expensive furniture, and men in suits who looked like they killed people for a living, because they did. Women clustered near the refreshment tables, perfectly coiffed, designer dresses, calculating eyes. They turned as Afua entered, and the whispers started immediately. Afua kept her expression serene, her head high. She belonged here. She had to believe that, or she'd crumble. Choi Jin-woo sat at the head of the room like a king holding court. His eyes found Afua, assessed her, and something cruel flickered in his expression. He gestured for them to approach. The moment of truth. Afua walked forward, flanked by the twins. When they reached Jin-woo, Dae-hyun and Min-sok bowed, 30 degrees, respectful but not subservient. They were his sons, his heirs. Their bow acknowledged his authority without grovelling. Afua knew what she had to do, what she'd been taught, what survival demanded. She sank to her knees and pressed her forehead to the floor in Keunjol, the full prostration bow. Abeonim, she said in Korean, voice clear despite her racing heart. Manaseo bangapsumnida. Father, it's an honor to meet you. The room fell silent. When she rose, Jin-woo was smiling. My sons have trained you well. Welcome to the Choi family, daughter-in-law. The words were warm. The eyes were ice. Thank you, Abeonim, Afua replied, keeping her gaze lowered. He turned to address the room in Korean, and Afua caught enough to understand, introducing her, explaining the arrangement, though not the coercion, positioning it as a strategic alliance, making her sound like a choice rather than a captive. Other family patriarchs approached, Park Sang-joon among them, older man with sharp eyes and a dangerous smile. He spoke in Korean, words Afua understood. So this is the Choi son's unusual bride, very exotic. The insult was casual, expected. Afua bowed deeply, said nothing. Does she speak Korean? Park asked Dae-hyun. Enough, Dae-hyun replied carefully. And she's obedient. Park's smile widened. You've tamed her quickly. Afua felt Dae-hyun's hand tighten imperceptibly against her back. A warning to stay calm. She did, bowed again, played her role. Park laughed. Well trained indeed, though I wonder, will she bear strong children? Or will the bloodline be diluted? The racism was blatant now. Afua's nails bit into her palms, but she kept her expression neutral. Min-sok spoke, voice cold. My wife's heritage is her strength, Park Sonsengnim. We're proud of the family. We're building. Of course, Park said, dismissive. Time will tell if strength or novelty proves more valuable. He moved on, and Afua released a breath she hadn't known she was holding. You did perfectly, Min-sok whispered. She didn't feel perfect. She felt humiliated, but she'd survived. The evening dragged on, an endless performance of bowing, smiling, serving tea with the other wives under their judgmental stares. Hannah caught her eye once, gave a tiny nod of approval. Some victories were so small they were nearly invisible. Finally, mercifully, the gathering ended. Afua maintained her composure until they were in the car, driving away from the compound. Then she started shaking. I need to. She couldn't finish. Min-sok understood, told the driver to pull over. Afua stumbled out and vomited onto expensive landscaping, her body purging the night's stress. Dae-hyun appeared with a bottle of water, didn't speak, didn't judge, just waited while she rinsed her mouth. I hate them, Afua whispered. I hate every single person in that room. So do we, Dae-hyun replied quietly. She looked at him, surprised. Your own family, especially them. They drove home in silence, and when they arrived, Afua went straight to her room, locked the door, and cried until she had nothing left. But she'd survived. That had to count for something. Smash that like, comment and subscribe button if you want to see more love stories that break boundaries and challenge what we think romance can be. In the days after the gathering, something shifted. Afua had proven herself capable of the performance, which meant the immediate crisis passed, but it also meant she was now fully embedded in this life. No more pretending this was temporary. She threw herself into her university work, attending classes online, submitting assignments, maintaining the fiction of normalcy. Her professors and classmates had no idea she went home each night to a penthouse prison and two men who owned her on paper, if not in practice. One evening, she found Min Sok on the apartment's rooftop terrace. The Seoul skyline glittered below, beautiful and indifferent. Can't sleep? He asked as she approached. Haven't slept well since this started. He poured soju into a small glass, offered it to her. She hesitated. She rarely drank, but tonight felt like a night for breaking rules. She took the glass. 2 hands when receiving from elders, Min Sok coached with a small smile. Turn away when drinking. Afua did both, and the soju burned going down. Min Sok poured another. They drank in silence for a while, and gradually the barriers lowered. Do you ever think about leaving? Afua asked. Just walking away from all of this. Every day, Min Sok said quietly. But where would I go? This is all I know. My father made sure of that. You're educated. You could do anything. With what money? What connections? Everything I have is tied to the family. Without them, I'm nothing. You'd be free, Min Seok laughed, but it sounded sad. Freedom is a luxury, Afua. Like you, I've learned to survive instead. She wanted to argue, to tell him that freedom was a right, not a luxury, but sitting here in this golden cage, drinking expensive alcohol while enslaved, the words rang hollow. What would you do? She asked instead. If you could do anything, Min Sok considered. Open a restaurant, a real one, not a front for criminal business, just food, good food, made with care, something honest. He glanced at her. What about you? I had plans, Afua said. Graduate, return to Ghana, open a community centre for vulnerable youth, help kids who had nowhere to go, no one to believe in them. Make a difference. Even a small one. That's beautiful. It's dead now, along with everything else I wanted. They drank more. The soju loosened something in Afua, made her brave or reckless or both. Can I ask you something? She said. Anything. That first night, when your father said to consummate the arrangement, you refused. Why? Min Sok was quiet for a long moment. Because I know what it's like to have someone try to force you to be something you're not, to make your body a tool for someone else's needs. And I couldn't do that to another person, even if it meant defying our father. There was something in his voice, pain, recognition. Afua remembered Dae-hyun mentioning Min Sok was different, that he understood being an outsider. What did he do to you? She asked softly. Min Sok's hands tightened around his glass. When I was 15, I fell in love with a boy from my school. My father found out. His voice cracked. He beat me unconscious. Sent the boy's family out of the country, told me that part of me was diseased, shameful, and if I ever acknowledged it again, he'd kill anyone I cared about. Afua's heart broke for him. I'm bisexual, Min Sok continued, saying it like a confession. But I've never been allowed to be. My father made sure I buried it so deep that sometimes I forget it exists, until moments like this, when I remember what it felt like to want someone freely, without fear. "I'm sorry," Afua said, "that he did that to you. I'm sorry he did this to you, forced you here. We're all his victims in different ways." They sat in silence, two people shackled by the same man, finding unexpected kinship. "You and Dae-hyun," Afua said, "you're very different." "Same face, different survival strategies," Min-sok said. "He became what our father wanted, hard, controlled, the perfect enforcer. I became charming, adaptable, the face people trust. We both learned to protect ourselves by becoming useful. And now I'm here, disrupting everything." "No, you're here surviving, like us, and maybe," he paused, "maybe you're the thing that finally gives us the courage to stop surviving and start living." Afua didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know if she believed it. But sitting here under the stars, slightly drunk, with this man who'd been broken by the same monster who'd enslaved her, she felt less alone. "Thank you," she said, "for telling me, for trusting me with that. Thank you for not judging." "How could I judge? I'm in no position to judge anyone." Min-sok smiled, a real smile, warm and grateful. "You're stronger than you think, Afua. You're going to survive this, we all are." She wanted to believe him. The weeks blurred into a month, and Afua found herself settling into a strange rhythm. University during the day, performances at night when required. Cooking Ghanaian food became her therapy, and the twins became her unlikely sous chefs. Dae-hyun was hopeless at it, too precise, treating cooking like a science experiment. But Min-sok was a natural, intuitive, and creative. One afternoon, Afua was in the kitchen preparing kelewel, spicy fried plantains, when Dae-hyun appeared, tension radiating from him. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. Afua's stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" Min-seok emerged from his room, responding to the tone. "What happened?" "Park family," Dae-hyun said grimly. "They're escalating, making moves to undermine our father's territory, and they're using Afua as ammunition." "Using me how?" Dae-hyun pulled out his phone, showed her a Korean news forum. The post showed a photo from the gathering, Afua serving tea, clearly visible. The comments were in Korean, but Afua's language skills were good enough now to understand the gist. Choi family desperate, marrying African woman, bloodline weakening, next generation will be mixed, inferior. The racism was casual and vicious. "They're questioning our father's judgment," Dae-hyun explained, "saying he's going soft, that bringing you into the family shows weakness. Park is using it to position himself as the traditional choice for other families to align with." "So I'm a political liability," Afua said flatly. "You're a target," Min-sok corrected. "There's a difference." "What does your father want?" Dae-hyun's expression darkened. "He wants proof that you're fully integrated into the family, a traditional Korean wedding ceremony, public and lavish, showing you've fully embraced Korean culture. He wants to make a statement, a performance, the biggest performance yet, and Afua," Dae-hyun hesitated. "He's also demanding that you get pregnant soon, to prove the marriage is real and the bloodline will continue." The room tilted. "No," Afua said. "Absolutely not. We'll stall him," Min-sok said quickly. "Tell him you're adjusting, that forcing it would be counterproductive. I'm not having a baby for that man." Afua's voice rose. "I'm not bringing a child into this nightmare." "We know," Dae-hyun said. "We're not asking you to, but we need to buy time. The wedding ceremony that we can't avoid, but the pregnancy we can delay. Tell him you're trying. Lie. How long can we lie? Months, maybe a year. Long enough for..." Stopped. "For what?" Afua demanded. "What's the end game here? I play house forever. Eventually he'll realize I'm not getting pregnant. Then what?" Dae-hyun and Min-sok exchanged a look, some wordless communication. "There might be a way out," Dae-hyun said slowly. "For all of us. Afua's heart raced. What kind of way? I've been documenting everything, every illegal transaction, every criminal operation, every murder our fathers ordered, building a case. Why? Because someday I want to be free of him. And the only way to do that is to destroy his empire completely. Give the evidence to federal prosecutors, watch him get arrested, walk away. That's insane, Afua breathed. He'd kill you. Maybe, but he can't kill us from prison. And if we time it right, if we have enough evidence, we can all get out. You, me, Min-seok, start over somewhere far from here. It was such a fragile hope, so impossible, but Afua clung to it anyway. How long until you have enough evidence? 6 months, maybe less. But we have to keep playing the roles until then. That means the wedding ceremony. It means convincing him you're trying to get pregnant. It means more gatherings, more performances. I can do that, Afua said, surprising herself. If there's an end game, I can do it. Min-seok looked at her with something like admiration. You're really strong. You know that. I'm really desperate, Afua corrected. There's a difference. But she made her choice. 6 more months of this nightmare, then freedom. Real freedom. She could survive 6 months. What Afua didn't anticipate was how those 6 months would change everything. The traditional Korean wedding ceremony was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Enough time to plan, but not enough to overthink. Afua was measured for a hanbok, traditional wedding dress in vibrant red and gold. She was drilled on the ceremony protocols by a hired coordinator who looked at her with thinly veiled disdain. Korean wedding is sacred, the woman said in accented English. You must honor tradition, bow correctly, speak vows clearly, show respect. I understand respect, Afua replied coolly. I've been showing it for months. The day of the ceremony arrived grey and cold. Afua stood in a preparation room, surrounded by women who fussed over her appearance but barely spoke to her. The hanbok was stunning. Red silk embroidered with gold phoenixes, heavy and ceremonial. Her face was painted in traditional wedding makeup. White base with red lips and defined eyes. She looked in the mirror and saw a stranger. Yu Hana appeared, touching up her own makeup. You look beautiful, she said. I look like a doll. That's the point. But underneath, you're still you. Remember that. The ceremony took place in a traditional hall on the Choi compound, witnessed by every major criminal family in Seoul. Afua walked down an aisle lined with people who viewed her as a curiosity at best, an abomination at worst. The twins waited at the altar, resplendent in traditional groom attire. For a moment, seeing them standing there, Afua felt a strange flutter in her chest. They were beautiful, and despite everything, they'd been kind to her, protected her, shared their pain. The ceremony was conducted in Korean. Afua spoke her vows phonetically, promising obedience and devotion she didn't feel. Dae-hyun spoke his vows with careful formality. Min-seok wasn't technically part of the ceremony. Korean law recognized only one marriage, but he stood as a witness. And everyone present understood what he represented. They bowed to the ancestors, bowed to the elders, bowed to each other. When it was over, Choi Jin-woo stood and proclaimed in Korean, "The Choi family grows stronger with this union. May it bring prosperity and many children." The hall erupted in polite applause that felt like judgment. The reception was lavish, endless food, drink, entertainment. Afua sat at the head table between the twins, smiling until her face hurt, accepting congratulations from people who despised her. Park Sang-jun approached during the dinner, wine making him bold. "A beautiful ceremony," he said in Korean, then switched to accented English. "Though I wonder, will your children speak Korean, or will they be lost between worlds, belonging nowhere?" Afua felt Daehyun tense beside her. Before either twin could respond, she smiled sweetly and replied in Korean, "Our children will be blessed to know both worlds. They will be stronger for it." Park's eyes widened. He hadn't expected her to understand, much less respond. Afua continued in English, "And they will know to judge people by their character, not their skin, a lesson some never learn." The insult was delivered with perfect politeness, but Park's face reddened. He walked away stiffly. Min Sok leaned close. "That was dangerous." "I'm tired of being polite to racists," Afua replied. "I liked it," Daehyun said quietly. "He deserved it." The reception finally ended. Afua was exhausted, drained by hours of performance. But when they returned to the penthouse, the twins didn't retreat to their rooms. "We should talk," Daehyun said. They sat in the living room, Afua on one end of the couch, the twins on the other, careful distance between them. "Our father will expect," Min Sok began. "I know what he'll expect," Afua cut him off. "Evidence that this marriage is real, but we've already discussed this. I'm not having sex just to satisfy him." "We know," Daehyun said, "but we need to give him something. Maybe not pregnancy yet, but some sign that we're trying." "Like what?" "You could move into one of our rooms," Min Sok suggested carefully. "Not for anything to happen, just for appearance. If the household staff sees you sleeping separately, they'll report it to our father." "There's household staff? Cleaners, security. They come when we're out. And yes, they report to our father." The surveillance was invasive but unsurprising. "Fine, I'll move my things. But to be clear, nothing happens without your consent," Daehyun finished. "We know. That hasn't changed." But something had changed. Living in closer proximity, sharing spaces, the walls between them were eroding. Afua noticed small things, how Daehyun brought her coffee without being asked, how Min Sok left sticky notes with Korean phrases for her to practice, how they both gave her space when she needed it, and company when she didn't ask, but wanted it. One night, unable to sleep, Afua found both twins in the kitchen, cooking together, or rather, Min Sok cooking while Daehyun watched with a glass of whiskey. "What are you making?" Afua asked. "Kimchi jjigae," Min Sok said. "Korean stew, comfort food. Want some?" She did. They ate together at the kitchen island, and Min Sok told stories about learning to cook from his mother, how she'd been patient with his mistakes, encouraging when he succeeded. Daehyun added quiet details, painting a picture of a woman who'd been gentle in a harsh world. "She would have liked you," Daehyun said suddenly, looking at Afua. "Why do you think that?" "Because you're like her, strong underneath the softness, refusing to let this world break you." Afua didn't know how to respond to that, didn't know if it was true. "Tell me about your family," Min Sok said. "Your real family, in Ghana. What are they like?" So Afua did. Told them about her grandmother, Nana Akosua, sharp-witted and wise, who'd taught her to cook and to stand up straight. About her mother Grace, strict but loving, who worked 2 jobs to send Afua to good schools. About her younger sister Abena, bright and ambitious, who wanted to be a doctor. "I send money home every month," Afua said. "Or I did, before all this, to help pay for Abena's school fees." "You can still send money," Daehyun said. "We'll arrange it. Just tell us how much." "I don't want your money." "It's not our money. It's yours. You're a Choi now. You have access to family funds. Use them to help your family." It felt like a trap, but also like a lifeline. Afua calculated in her head. If she could send more, Abena could finish school without stress. Her mother could work less. The family could breathe. "I'll think about it," she said. But that night, she initiated the transfer herself, using the account they'd set up for her, sent 3 times what she usually managed, added a note to her mother, got a scholarship stipend, wanted you to have it, love you, more lies, but these ones helped. 2 months after the wedding, Afua's carefully maintained walls began to crack. It started small, Min Sok teaching her to make Korean fried chicken, their hands touching as he showed her the double frying technique. Dae-hyun defending her to a business associate who made a crude comment, his violence swift and shocking. Afua falling asleep on the couch during a movie, waking to find herself covered with a blanket, both twins on either side, careful not to touch, but present. She was supposed to hate them. They were her captors, her owners on paper, but they were also the only people in Seoul who knew her truth, who saw her struggling and tried to help, who'd given her tools to survive and never asked for gratitude. One evening, after a particularly brutal day of classes and criminal family obligations, Afua broke down, just collapsed in her room, crying from exhaustion and hopelessness. Min Seok heard. These walls were thin. He knocked softly. Afua, can I come in? No. He came in anyway, found her curled on the bed, sobbing. He sat carefully at the edge of the mattress, not touching. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I'm sorry this is your life. I'm sorry we can't fix it faster. I'm so tired, Afua whispered. So tired of pretending, of performing, of lying to everyone I love. I know. Do you? Do you really know what it's like to… Yes, Min Sok interrupted. I do. I've been pretending to be someone else my entire life. Hiding who I am, what I want, what I feel. It's exhausting, it's soul-destroying, and I'm sorry you have to do it too. Afua looked at him, really looked. Saw the pain in his eyes, the exhaustion that matched hers. They were both performing, both trapped, both so very tired. Come here, she said, not sure what she was offering. Min Seok moved closer. Afua leaned against him, and he wrapped careful arms around her. They sat like that, finding comfort in shared captivity. Dae-hyun appeared in the doorway, assessing. Is she okay? No, Min Seok said. Neither are we, but we're here. Dae-hyun joined them, sitting on her other side. 3 people in a broken circle, holding each other up. That night marked a shift. The lines between captor and captive, between performance and reality, began to blur. The crisis came 4 months into the arrangement. Afua was leaving her university when a van pulled up. Men she didn't recognize grabbed her, and she fought, kicked, screamed, bit. One struck her hard across the face. The world spun. She came to consciousness in a warehouse, tied to a chair, head pounding. Park Sang-jun sat across from her, smiling. Awake, he said in English. Good. I was hoping to have a conversation. Terror locked Afua's throat. The Choi twins have grown soft, Park continued. Weak. Their father sees it, even if he won't admit it. And you, he gestured at her, you are the weakness. Proof that they value sentiment over strength. What do you want? I want to demonstrate to your husbands what happens when they prioritize an African whore over family honor. I want to remind them that in this world, affection is liability. He nodded to his men. One approached with a knife. Afua screamed. Dae-hyun received the video on his phone. 15 seconds of Afua, bound and terrified, Park's voice promising to send her back, piece by piece, unless the Choi family conceded territory. He'd never felt rage like this. It was white-hot, consuming, destroying, rational thought. Min Seok grabbed his arm. We need to think. I'm going to kill him, Dae-hyun said flatly. I'm going to kill every single person who touched her. Then we call father. Get his resources. No, Dae-hyun was already moving, grabbing weapons. If we involve father, he'll use this as an excuse to eliminate the Park family completely. War, death. And Afua becomes a tool in his power play. We handle this ourselves. They assembled a team, loyal men, the ones who answered to them, not to their father. Tracked Park's location through the video's metadata. 30 minutes, they had him. The warehouse assault was brutal and efficient. Dae-hyun moved through Park's men like death itself, and Min-sok wasn't far behind. They killed or incapacitated anyone in their path. When Dae-hyun found Afua, bruised, bleeding from a cut on her cheek, but alive, something in his chest cracked open. He untied her carefully, and she collapsed into his arms, shaking. "I've got you," he murmured. "You're safe. I've got you." Min-sok appeared, blood on his suit. "We need to go, now." They carried Afua to the car. Dae-hyun cradled her against his chest, and she buried her face in his shoulder, breathing him in. Safety. Protection. Home. The word jolted her. Home. These men felt like home. When had that happened? At the penthouse, Min-sok tended her injuries while Dae-hyun paced, fury radiating from him. "I should have killed him," Dae-hyun said. "Should have put a bullet in Park's head." "But you didn't," Afua said quietly, "because that would have started a war. You were hurt. He hurt you. I'm okay." "You're not okay," Dae-hyun's voice cracked. "And it's my fault. I brought you into this world, made you a target. Everything they did to you is because of me." Afua stood, wincing, and crossed to him, placed her hands on his face, forcing him to look at her. "Listen to me," she said. "Your father did this. Park did this. You didn't. You saved me. You came for me. I should have protected you better. You came for me," Afua repeated. "When I was terrified and alone, you came. That matters." Dae-hyun's control shattered. He pulled her close, careful of her injuries, and pressed his face into her hair. "I can't lose you. I can't. You've become "I know," Afua whispered, because she did. Somehow, impossibly, she'd become important to them, and they'd become important to her. Min-sok joined the embrace, the three of them holding each other. "We need to accelerate the timeline," Dae-hyun said finally. "Get the evidence to the prosecutors now. End this. It's not complete. I don't care. Afua nearly died today. Every day she spends in this world is a day Park or someone else could try again. We end it now." It was decided. 1 week. They'd compile everything Dae-hyun had gathered, hand it to Detective Kim Ji-hoon, and blow up their father's empire. But that week brought unexpected complications. Afua's mother called, suspicious. "You sound different," Grace said over video chat. "Strained, what's wrong?" "Nothing, Mama. Just stressed with school." "You're lying to me, I can hear it." Afua's throat tightened. "I'm fine, really." But Grace Mensah hadn't raised her daughter to be a careless liar. "Afua, tell me the truth. Right now." And Afua wanted to confess everything, beg for help, cry into her mother's arms across the ocean, but she couldn't, because the truth would endanger everyone. "I can't," she whispered. Grace's face hardened. "Then I'm coming to Seoul. If you won't tell me, I'll see for myself." "No, Mama, please." But her mother had already ended the call. Panic clawed at Afua's chest. If her mother came, she'd discover everything. The marriage, the mafia, the danger. And knowing Grace Mensah, she'd try to save her daughter, which would get her killed. "We have a problem," Afua told the twins. When she explained, Dae-hyun's expression turned grim. "We can't let her come. If she gets involved, you can't stop her. My mother is terrifying when she's determined. Then we tell her the truth," Min-sok said. "Bring her here, explain the situation, show her we're working on getting you out. She'll try to get the police involved. Then we convince her not to. Afua, we can't have her flying here without understanding the danger. That puts everyone at risk." Afua's hands shook. Her mother, her fierce, protective mother, walking into this nightmare, the thought was unbearable, but Min-sok was right. Better to control the revelation than let Grace discover it herself. Okay, Afua said. I'll tell her, but not over the phone. She needs to be here, where we can protect her while she processes. Grace Mensah arrived 3 days later, and the moment Afua saw her mother's face in the airport, she broke. They embraced, and Grace whispered in Twi, "What happened to you? What's wrong?" "Not here," Afua said. "Let's go home. I'll explain everything." The drive to the penthouse was tense. Grace sat in the back of the luxury car, taking in the expensive vehicle. The suited driver, the twins sitting in front. Her eyes missed nothing. At the apartment, Afua sat her mother down and told her everything. The debt, Uncle Kofi's betrayal, the forced marriage, the criminal empire, the kidnapping, all of it. Grace listened in absolute silence, her face progressing from shock to fury to something that looked like grief. When Afua finished, Grace spoke in Twi, fast and sharp. "You've been living with these criminals for months, as their wife, and you didn't tell me." "I couldn't, Mama. They threatened everyone. Uncle Kofi, you, Abena. So you sacrificed yourself." Grace's voice broke. "You let them take you. I didn't have a choice. There is always a choice." Grace stood, rounding on the twins who'd been waiting in the kitchen. She switched to English, her accent thick with emotion. "You bought my daughter. Like property. Like an animal. We didn't," Min-sok began. "Don't lie to me." Grace's fury was magnificent. "I don't care that you are rich or powerful or whatever you think makes you special. You took my child. You made her into this." She gestured at Afua. "Look at her. She's afraid. She's thin. She has bruises. What kind of men do this? Men who were trying to survive our father," Daehin said quietly. "The same way Afua is trying to survive him. We didn't choose this, Mrs. Mensah. We're all trapped." "Trapped?" Grace's laugh was bitter. "You live in a palace. You have money, power, freedom. My daughter has nothing. Don't you dare compare." "Mama, please," Afua interrupted. "They're not the enemy. Their father is, and they're helping me escape. In 4 days, they're giving evidence to prosecutors that will destroy the entire empire. We'll all be free." Grace looked between them, assessing. "And then what? You think you can just walk away? Men like this," she pointed at Daehyun and Min-sok, "they don't let go of power. They'll drag you back, or kill you for betraying them." "That's why we're doing it carefully," Daehyun explained. "Federal protection, new identities if necessary, a complete break. And my daughter, she just starts over, pretends this nightmare didn't happen." "No," Afua said. "I'll carry it forever. But I'll be free. That's all I want, Mama. Freedom." Grace sat heavily, the fight draining from her. She looked at her daughter, really looked, seeing the changes months had wrought. Then she turned to the twins. "If you hurt her," Grace said in English, slow and clear, "if you betray her, if you use her, if you make her suffer more than she already has, I will find a way to make you pay. I don't care about your guns or your money or your power. I am her mother, and a mother's curse is stronger than any weapon." It wasn't an idle threat. The twins seemed to recognize that. "We understand," Daehyun said, "and we won't. Afua she's become important to us, more than we expected. We'll protect her." Grace's eyes narrowed. "Important how?" The question hung in the air. Afua found herself answering. "Mama, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it." She explained how over months of proximity, survival, shared pain, and unexpected kindness, something had shifted. How she'd fallen for them, both of them, how it was complicated and messy and probably unhealthy given the circumstances. But it was real. "I love them," Afua said simply. "I didn't want to. I fought it, but I do. Grace closed her eyes, and when she opened them, they were wet. They bought you. How can you love men who bought you? Because they also saved me. Because they're trying to free me. Because they see me as a person, not property. Because, Afua's voice broke. Because they're trapped too, Mama. And I understand what that feels like. Grace was silent for a long time. Then she switched to Twi, speaking only to Afua. This is Stockholm Syndrome. You are confusing survival instinct with love. Maybe, Afua replied in Twi. Or maybe I'm choosing to find light in darkness. Maybe I'm doing what our ancestors did, surviving and finding joy anyway. Our ancestors were enslaved. You are enslaved. And I'm finding a way out with their help. Isn't that what matters? Grace had no answer. The next days were tense. Grace stayed in the guest room, watching everything with a mother's scrutiny. But she saw things, how Min Sok brought Afua tea without being asked, how Dae-hyun's hand always found the small of her back in protective gesture, how all three moved around each other with practiced ease. One evening, Grace found Afua in the kitchen, cooking jollof rice. The twins were helping, badly, but trying. Add more pepper, Afua instructed Min Sok. This much? He held up a handful. Half that. We want flavour, not fire. Dae-hyun was chopping onions, eyes watering. This is harder than it looks. Everything worth doing is, Afua said. Grace watched from the doorway, and something in her expression softened. This was her daughter, laughing, teaching, claiming space in a kitchen like she owned it. Not broken, surviving, and more than that, living. After dinner, Grace pulled Afua aside. I'm still angry, she said in Twi, at them, at your uncle, at this whole situation. But I see that you're okay. Not just alive, but okay. And I see that they care for you, really care. They do, Afua confirmed. Do you trust them? I'm learning to, Grace sighed. Then I'll try, for you, but if they fail you, I know, Mama, your curse, it's noted. The day before Grace's return flight, Choi Jin-woo demanded a family dinner. Grace was invited as honoured guest, which was really code for inspection. Afua was terrified. Her mother meeting that monster felt like two worlds colliding, and one of them would be destroyed. But Grace Mensah was no one's victim. At the Choi compound, Jin-woo greeted Grace with unctuous courtesy. Mrs. Mensah, an honour to finally meet Afua's family. Grace smiled, cold and sharp. Mr. Choi, thank you for your hospitality toward my daughter. The dinner was a battlefield disguised as a meal. Jin-woo probed, testing Grace's knowledge. Grace parried, revealing nothing. When he suggested that Afua should visit Ghana less often to focus on Choi family duties, Grace's eyes flashed. My daughter will visit her family as often as she chooses, Grace said. Marriage does not erase her roots. Of course not, Jin-woo replied smoothly. But family obligations are to both families, Grace interrupted. Or did you forget that marriage is a joining of families, not an acquisition? The challenge was clear. Jin-woo's smile thinned. Indeed, how progressive of you. Afua watched, torn between pride and terror. Her mother was fearless, but fearlessness in this world got you killed. After dinner, as they prepared to leave, Jin-woo pulled Afua aside. Your mother is spirited, he said in Korean. But be warned, if she becomes a problem, if she tries to interfere with family business, there will be consequences. Afua kept her expression neutral. I understand, Abeonim. 3 more days, just 3 more days, and they'd be free of him forever. The night before they were scheduled to hand over the evidence, Afua couldn't sleep. She found both twins in the living room, drinking whiskey, looking as restless as she felt. Can't sleep either, Min Sok asked. Too nervous. What if it goes wrong? It won't, Dae-hyun said with more confidence than his eyes showed. But if it does, then we improvise. We've been doing that our whole lives. Afua sat between them on the couch, and they fell into comfortable silence. After months of proximity, they'd learned each other's rhythms, each other's fears. "Can I tell you both something?" Afua said quietly. "Anything. I'm terrified of tomorrow, of what happens after, of everything. But I'm also," she paused, searching for words. "I'm grateful. For you two. For how you've treated me. You could have made this so much worse, and you didn't. You gave me choices when you didn't have to. You protected me. You became..." Her voice caught. "You became important to me." Min-sok took her hand. "You became important to us too, more than important. Afua, I need you to know." "Don't," she interrupted. "Don't say anything that sounds like goodbye. Not tonight." So instead, they sat in silence, hands intertwined, drawing strength from each other. As dawn approached, Afua made a decision. "I want to choose," she said. "I want to choose this, us, not because I have to, not because I'm trapped, but because I want to." Daehyun looked at her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that when your father's empire falls and we're all free, I still want this. Want you. Both of you, if you'll have me, as an actual choice, not a forced arrangement." Min-sok's breath caught. "Are you sure?" "No," Afua admitted. "I'm not sure about anything, but I know I feel safer with you than anywhere else. I know you make me laugh when everything's terrible. I know that somewhere along the way, this started feeling less like a prison and more like home." "Home," Daehyun repeated softly. "Yeah, it does." They kissed her then. First Min-seok, gentle and questioning, then Daehyun, fierce and claiming, and for the first time, Afua felt the heat of desire without the cold shadow of coercion. "Show me," she whispered. "Show me what it's like when I'm choosing." They took her to Daehyun's room, larger, softer, laid her down like she was precious, and then they worshipped her. Every touch asking permission, every kiss a question answered by her sighs. Min-sok traced the curve of her hip, his hands reverent. "You're so beautiful. Do you know that?" Afua had never felt beautiful in Seoul. She'd felt too dark, too different, too much. But under their hands, their words, she felt seen. Desired not despite her differences, but because of her wholeness. Daehyun kissed her shoulder, her neck, mapping her skin. "Tell us what you want. This is yours." What did she want? She wanted to feel powerful in her own body, wanted pleasure without fear, wanted to choose every moment. "I want you," she said, "both of you. Teach me how this works." They did, slowly, carefully, making sure she led even when they guided. Min-seok's touch was playful. Drawing gasps and laughter, Daehyun's was intense, watching her responses like he was learning a new language. When Afua finally came apart under their hands, she cried, not from pain but from the overwhelming relief of desire met with tenderness. This was what it was supposed to be, this choosing, this mutual hunger, this safety. After, they held her between them, skin cooling in the Seoul night. "Thank you," Afua whispered. "For what?" Min-sok asked. "For waiting, for making it good, for letting it be my choice." "Always," Daehyun promised. "From now on, everything is your choice." She fell asleep wrapped in them, feeling something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. The meeting with Detective Kim was scheduled for 3 p.m. at a secure location. They arrived early, the evidence compiled on encrypted drives, ready to destroy Choi Jin-woo's empire. Detective Kim was a tired-looking man in his 50s, skeptical eyes that had seen too much. He reviewed the evidence methodically, his expression growing darker with each page. "This is extensive," he said finally. "Financial crimes, murder for hire, trafficking, extortion. You've documented everything." "Will it be enough?" Daehyun asked. "More than enough." With this, I can bring down not just your father, but most of his network. It'll be the biggest organized crime bust in decades. When will you move? There's a criminal summit scheduled in 3 days. Your father's hosting. We'll execute warrants there, arrest everyone in one sweep. Maximum impact, minimum chance for evidence destruction. 3 days. They had 3 days of pretending everything was normal while the trap closed. What about protection? Min Sok asked. For us? For Afua? Witness protection can be arranged, new identities if needed. But understand, you'll be targets. Your father's loyalists, the families you're betraying, they'll want revenge. We understand, Daehyun said. We're ready. But nothing could have prepared them for what came next. That night, as they returned to the penthouse, they found Choi Jin-woo waiting in their living room. Afua's blood ran cold. "Hello, sons," Jin-woo said pleasantly. "And daughter-in-law, we need to talk." "How did you get in?" Daehyun demanded. "I own this building. I have keys to everything you think is yours." He smiled. "Including her." "Get out," Min Sok said, stepping in front of Afua protectively. "Not until we discuss your upcoming plans. You see, I have eyes everywhere." "Did you really think you could meet with a detective and I wouldn't know?" The world tilted. He knew. Somehow, he knew. "Detective Kim works for me now," Jin-woo continued conversationally. "Well, his superior does, and that superior informed me of your betrayal." "You're lying," Daehyun said. But his voice wavered. Jin-woo pulled out his phone, played a recording. It was their conversation with Kim, every word captured. "So you have a choice," Jin-woo said. "You can proceed with this foolish rebellion and I'll have you all killed, or you can accept reality. The empire is eternal, you are temporary, and this girl," he looked at Afua with contempt, "she's made you weak, so she needs to go." "No," both twins said simultaneously. "Not negotiable. I've arranged for her to be deported back to Ghana tomorrow. The marriage will be annulled, your uncle's debt reinstated, but that's his problem, not yours. You'll move on, marry proper Korean women, and forget this mistake." Afua found her voice. "I'm not going anywhere," Jin-woo laughed. "You don't have a choice, girl. You never did. You were a tool, a test, and you failed. Made my son soft, emotional, disloyal. Time to cut my losses." "Father," Min Sok started. "Enough!" Jin-woo's voice cracked like a whip. "I've been patient, indulgent. Let you play house with this African whore. But it ends now. She leaves tomorrow, and if either of you tries to stop it, I'll have her killed instead of deported. Understand?" The choice was no choice. Let her go or watch her die. Afua saw the devastation in the twins' faces, saw them calculating, trying to find another option. There wasn't one. "Okay," Afua said, before either twin could speak. "I'll go." "Afua, no." Daehyun reached for her. She pulled away. "It's the only way. I'll go. You'll stay. Everyone lives." "That's not. We can fight. And I'll die," Afua said bluntly. "We all will. This was always the end game. We just didn't want to see it." Jin-woo smiled, victorious. "So sensible. I'll have my men collect you at 6 a.m. Pack lightly." He left, and Afua felt her entire world collapse. The twins tried to argue, to plan, to find another way, but there wasn't one. Every scenario ended in death. Hers, theirs, both. "I can't let you die for me," Afua said finally. "I won't, so I go back to Ghana and you survive. That's the best option." "That's not an option," Daehyun said fiercely. "We don't abandon you. You're not abandoning me. You're saving me and yourselves. Please, let me do this." They argued for hours, but eventually, exhausted and defeated, they accepted reality. That night, Afua lay between them one last time. They didn't make love. It would have felt like goodbye. Instead, they held each other, memorizing the feel of skin on skin, heartbeat against heartbeat. I love you, Min Sok whispered. I know I shouldn't. I know it's complicated, but I do. I love you too, Afua replied. Both of us? Daehyun asked. Both of you, is that allowed? I don't care what's allowed anymore, Daehyun said. I just care what's true, and the truth is, you've become the best part of our lives. They fell asleep, tangled together, dreading dawn. At 5:55 a.m., Afua woke. The twins were already awake, watching her like they were trying to memorize her face. Don't come out with me, Afua said. It'll be easier if you don't. Nothing about this is easy, Min Sok said. Then let's not make it harder. She dressed quickly, grabbed the small bag she'd packed, paused at the door. Find a way out, she said. Someday, even if I'm not there, find a way to be free. We will, Daehyun promised. And when we do, we'll come find you. It was a beautiful lie. They all knew it. Afua walked out, and the guards were waiting. They escorted her to a car, and she didn't look back. At the airport, she was put on a plane to Accra with a one-way ticket and the clothes on her back. Everything else, the money, the apartment, the life she'd built, erased like it never existed. As the plane took off, Seoul disappearing below, Afua finally let herself cry. For what she'd lost, for what she'd almost had, for the impossible love that bloomed in darkness and couldn't survive the light. She was going home, but home didn't feel like home anymore because part of her heart remained in Seoul, with two men who'd been her captors and her lovers and finally, impossibly, her choice. 3 months later, Afua lived with her mother in Kumasi, working at a local NGO. She smiled when expected, functioned well enough. But Grace saw the hollowness in her daughter's eyes. You miss them, Grace said one evening. Afua didn't deny it. Yes, even after everything, especially after everything, because they tried. They really tried to save me, Grace sighed. Love is cruel sometimes. One day, Afua received a package, no return address. Inside, a thumb drive and a note in Daehyun's handwriting. We found a way. Watch this and be ready. We're coming for you. With shaking hands, Afua plugged the drive into her laptop. A video loaded news footage from Seoul. In a stunning development, Choi Jin-woo, patriarch of the Choi criminal organization, has been arrested along with 37 associates following a massive federal operation. The arrests took place during a gathering of multiple criminal families. Afua watched, heart pounding, as the report detailed the evidence provided by an anonymous source. Financial records, murder documentation, everything Daehyun had compiled. Choi Jin-woo was in custody. The empire was collapsing. A second video on the drive, Daehyun and Min Sok, speaking directly to the camera. Afua, Daehyun said, we did it. He's gone. The empire is gone. We're free. And we're coming to Ghana, Min Sok added, to find you, to ask if you still want us, because we want you. We choose you. We don't know if you'll say yes, Daehyun continued. After everything, you might not, but we had to ask. We had to try. Look for us, Min Sok said. We'll be at the community centre you always talked about opening, the one in Kumasi, because we're going to help you build it. The video ended. Afua stared at the screen, then burst into laughter, slightly hysterical, completely joyful. Mama, she shouted, I need your help. 2 weeks later, Afua stood outside a newly rented building in Kumasi, the future site of her community centre. She'd secured funding, mysteriously generous funding from an anonymous donor, hired staff, begun outreach, and she waited. The twins arrived on a Thursday morning, looking ridiculously out of place in Kumasi. 2 Korean men in expensive clothes, clearly lost, asking for directions in broken English. Afua watched from across the street as they found the building, read the sign. Akoma Community Centre, Heart Community Centre in Twi. She crossed the street, They saw her, stopped. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Then Afua ran. She crashed into them both, and they caught her, holding tight. All three were crying and laughing, and people stared at this strange scene, but Afua didn't care. "You came," she said in wonder. "We promised," Daehyun replied. "We choose you," Min-sok added. "Again. Always." "I choose you too," Afua said. "Both of you, for real this time. Free choice, no coercion, just love." They kissed her there on the street in Kumasi, and it was messy and public and perfect. Grace watched from the centre's doorway, arms crossed, trying to look stern, but her eyes were wet. "Come meet my mother," Afua said, pulling them forward. "Properly this time, as the men I love, not the men who bought me." The twins looked terrified. Grace Mensah was formidable, but they followed Afua inside. Grace studied them for a long moment. Then, in heavily accented Korean, "Manaseo bangapsumnida. Pleased to meet you." Daehyun's eyes widened. "You learned Korean?" "I learned enough to curse you properly if you hurt my daughter again," Grace replied in English, "but also to welcome you if you're truly here to build a life with her, not control her." "We are," Min-sok said. "We want to help. With the center, with her dreams, whatever she needs. I need partners," Afua said. "Not owners, not protectors, partners." "We can do that," Daehyun said. "We're learning." It wasn't a fairy tale ending. They had trauma to process, complicated legal situations to navigate. The marriage had been annulled, which meant they'd need to date properly, build something real. The community centre demanded work. Adjusting to life in Ghana, where the twins were the outsiders, would be challenging, but they had time. They had freedom. They had each other. And that was enough. 1 year later, the Akoma Community Centre's opening day was chaos in the best way. Children everywhere, parents touring facilities, volunteers coordinating programs. Afua moved through the crowd, directing traffic, beaming with pride. The centre had grown beyond her dreams. After-school programs, women's shelters, job training, mental health services. Funded partly by grants, partly by donations from surprisingly generous Korean sources. Detective Kim had quietly helped redirect seized criminal assets, and partly by the restaurant Min-seok had opened, a Korean Ghanaian fusion place that had become wildly popular. Daehyun worked as a security consultant, but spent most of his time teaching self-defense classes at the center, helping young women learn to protect themselves. His past violence channeled toward protection. Min-seok was in the kitchen, preparing food for the celebration, jollof rice and kimchi, kelewel and Korean fried chicken, a fusion that shouldn't work, but did. Grace Mensah presided over the event like a queen, welcoming guests in Twai and broken Korean, her acceptance of the twins hard-won, but genuine. They'd proven themselves through action, through staying, through loving her daughter well. Afua's grandmother, Nana Akosua, sat in a place of honor. She'd taken one look at the twins when they first met and said, in Twi, "These boys have good hearts under the damage. You chose well." Coming from Nana, it was the highest blessing. Afua's sister Abena was there too, now in university, thanks to the continued financial support. She pulled Afua aside. "Are you happy?" Abena asked. Afua looked across the room, Daehyun helping an elderly woman to her seat. Min-seok teaching children to make Korean rice balls. Her mother, laughing with a volunteer, found the answer easily. "Yes," Afua said, "I'm happy." It was complicated happiness. She still had nightmares about the compound, about Park, about Jinwoo's cold eyes. Still struggled with trust some days. The trauma didn't evaporate because the story had a hopeful ending, but she was healing. They all were. That night, after the celebration ended and the center emptied, Afua sat on the floor with Daehyun and Min-seok, eating leftovers straight from containers. "Your grandmother told me something today," Min-seok said. What? She said, Obre nkumuo wo na ekiere wo kwan. Life will test you, but it also shows you the way. I think we lived that. We survived the test, Daehan added, and found the way together. Afua leaned against him, took Min Seok's hand. I'm glad it was together. I couldn't have done it alone. You did do it alone, Daehyun corrected. For months. You survived when we couldn't save you. You were strong enough to keep living even when everything was terrible. We just got to walk beside you eventually. It was true. Her strength had carried her through hell. Their love had helped her find her way back to light. Afua touched her stomach, just slightly curved now. Early pregnancy not yet showing, but present. They'd decided together this time. A choice, not a demand. A child who would be born free, raised by 3 parents who loved them, who would know both Korean and Twi, who would be told the truth, that they came from darkness, but were made in love. Mepewo, she said in Twi, then repeated in Korean, Sarang hai, I love you. Both twins responded in both languages, and Afua felt the beauty of it. This blending of worlds, this family they'd chosen to create. The community centre stood as proof that broken things could be rebuilt, that trauma could be transformed, that love, real, chosen, freely given love, could grow even in the hardest soil. Afua Mensah had been sold, enslaved, trapped, but she'd survived. She'd fought. She'd found unexpected allies in her captors, unexpected love in her prison. And when freedom came, she'd chosen to keep that love, to build something beautiful with men who'd learned to be better. It wasn't the ending she'd planned when she was a girl in Kumasi dreaming of social work and community service, but it was real. It was hers. It was hard-won and precious and complicated and absolutely perfectly imperfect. She was free. They were free, and together they were building a future where others could find freedom too. That was enough. That was everything. The end. If this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button and join our community who believe love can bloom in unexpected places. Drop a comment and tell me, what would you have done in Afua's position? Would you have run the moment you had the chance? Or would you have chosen to build a life with the twins like she did? And here's the real question. Do you believe people can truly change? Or are Daehyun and Min Seok still products of their father's world?